Experience a membership that backs your business journey with American Express Business Platinum. When you pay with membership rewards points for all or part of an eligible flight booked with a qualifying airline through Amex Travel, you can get 35% of those points back, up to 1 million points back per calendar year. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
Hello, this is Derek Day from Classless Act, and you're listening to Jay Scott on The Hook Rocks. Have a rock and roll time listening to it, baby.
I'll keep us going if you keep the charade. You won't know of the mess that we made. I'll keep them coming like moths to a flame. We'll be the best thing that they've ever seen.
Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to The Hook Rocks. I'm your host, Jay Scott. We are part of the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. Thanks for tuning in once again. Hope everybody's staying warm out there. It's been kind of a dreadful last few weeks in the Midwest and out on the East, but it was 40 degrees today, which was promising. So it was beach weather here in Chicago. Hope you're enjoying the winter. I know there's some crazy people that actually like cold weather. I don't know. I don't understand these people, but they are out there. So just kind of accept them. They do this every year. They love the snow. They like to be out and about. I like heat. I like being inside. But nevertheless, we are part of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a great network of music-related podcasts. You can catch so many different types of genre-related podcast on Pantheon Podcast. There's something for everyone. I always mention my friends on the show prior to introducing our current guest, and you can check out Mistress Carrie out in Boston. She does a great job, as well as Baco from Cobras and Fire. Just had Ron Anesti, the co-host of the Hangin' and Bangin' podcast with Vinny Appice and Carmen Apice. And don't forget my friends Tom and Zeus on the Shout Out Loudcast, the #1 rated Kiss podcast, and Martin Popoff, the rock historian. Please check out some of our previous episodes that we've done over the last month or so. We just had Scott Gorham on from Thin Lizzy talking about potentially putting together a tour for Thin Lizzy later this year. Not potentially, he's going to be doing it. So that was a great conversation. Some great new music spotlights with Georgia Thunderbolts. We had The Warning. We've had so many other great new bands. We're approaching 150 new music spotlights. Check out the one with Greg and Robert from Joyous Wolf, the Long Beach, California band. That was a great conversation as well. Don't forget to check out our year-end celebration, the 2-part album review of 2021, where we ranked our top 30 albums with some guest contributors. We discussed over 160 albums, almost 6 hours of conversation. It was dreadful to edit, but well worth it when it comes to the conversation. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And we've got another fantastic episode for you guys today. I am very excited to introduce this band to you guys. I've been listening to their EP for the last couple of weeks. It's absolutely tremendous. I'd like to welcome in Kaylene and Lauren from GoldThread. How are you guys?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
I'm glad the both of you are on. I've been looking forward to this conversation. I didn't know what to expect when I was sent your music, and I stopped in my tracks. It's very, I got a really great Band of Horses vibe to it.
Sweet.
Oh, nice.
I'll take that all day.
Yeah. Take that.
And I was like, who does this remind me of? And they were the band that came to mind because I love them too as well. But the music was great. We're going to get into it, but we always start the same way every time we have a first-time guest. In this case, we have guests, plural, and it is the essence of our podcast. Just like every rock song has a hook that sucks you in, every rock fan has a moment, whether it's a song, an album, a band, or performance that hooked them on rock and roll. What was it for you?
Oh, man. When I was 10, I think, we went and saw Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. This is it. And I remember just being like, dun, 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 dun. Like it totally transformed me. It was amazing. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, the first concert that I ever went to, my dad was really into Coldplay. So we went to a big arena show that they did like back in the era of X and Y and Rush of Blood to the Head. And I remember just standing there with all of the lasers going and the lights. And I was just like, this is so cool.
Did they have the big bouncing beach balls at that show?
No, they didn't. I think that came a little later.
In a previous life, when I was traveling for work, I got free tickets to see Pete Yorn open up for Coldplay. And I'm still a huge Pete Yorn fan. I love Pete Yorn. Yeah. So I was all like pumped to see him, and Coldplay was the headliner, and it was at some place outside of Detroit. And I basically planned my business meeting around this concert. So it was, totally doable. And I got like 10th row center. I went by myself because I didn't know anyone. And obviously Pete Yorn was great. Love seeing him. And I didn't know what to expect out of Coldplay because I've never seen them. I like some of their songs, but I had a totally new appreciation for what they do and how they perform in their songs. And I became a fan. I was kind of like a casual listener prior to that, but I became a fan after that show. They're absolutely tremendous.
Yeah. And Chris Martin, really, I think they all kind of just go above and beyond to like make it a show and make it a spectacle and something worth watching. And I've never seen someone who can jump that high and not break their ankles.
Plus he's tall too.
Crazy.
Like that's a big body going up and down and not breaking anything.
There's some infamous picture that they have posted on their website where he was like, yeah, I went to jump off the stage like I normally do, and I did not realize how high the stage was. And I think he said it was like a 15-foot jump that he was just casually like, yeah, I'm going to go jump off this. This is cool.
I fall over just walking around. Like, right? I can't imagine.
No,
I do too. I've been known to do that. Without ice too as well, just fall randomly. Where did it go from there for the both of you? Where did your musical taste go to? When did you decide you wanted to perform and wanted to pursue and go on this journey?
Yeah, I've been playing instruments for a long time, and once my parents got a Mac and I found GarageBand, I was like, oh my gosh, I can record stuff too.
Stacks on stacks of vocals.
Yeah, and I think that kind of launched this passion of songwriting and just wanting to create and actually be able to put multiple instruments and multiple layers on things. It really just ignited this lifelong love of recording. And I can say I honestly didn't really want to perform until I was like 19 or 20, because I was so shy growing up. I had the worst stage fright. So even now, sometimes I was going to say had. Yeah, I still get kind of jittery.
Present. Yeah.
What about you?
Oh man, let's see. So my uncle is a classical piano player. So I grew up learning from him how to play. But I never really took to piano all too well. I only stayed with lessons because I felt like family gatherings would be awkward if I quit on him. But it's a good thing that I stuck with it. And then when I was 12, I got my first guitar, and like all of the missing passion or whatever of playing piano music, it just like fell into place instantly. I was like, whoa, I like this. This is good.
That's the key.
And it's actually like a weird like blessing in disguise that like the emo phase happened when I was in high school, and like right at the perfect time, because everyone was like, yeah, let me, explore my darkness through my poetry. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that too. And then I was like, wait a second, I actually really like this. Like it started as me joking, and now I'm like, no, I like this a lot. So it just kind of turned from, like a weird phase that I never grew out of. So here we are.
My son just did a performance with the local school of rock. They have different levels, and he performed, and then it was a 2-day thing, and he wanted to, his performance was earlier on the second day, and he wanted to stay and watch the emo band that they were doing. Nice. And I'm not really big on emo, and I sat there for an hour and a half listening to this stuff, and they were good. The kids were great. But we get in the car. He's like, what'd you think? I'm like, I need some of my music to get us home.
Yeah.
I'm like, it was good. They were talented.
Yeah.
As far as the classical piano, it's interesting because I remember my first love of music was discovered by my grandfather when I was young. He used to be a lounge piano player back in the days of the speakeasies, and he used to play for the mobsters in Chicago.
That's so
and he had a baby grand in his basement. So when I would stay overnight there, I would be awoken on a Saturday or Sunday by this piano. And he played like thunder. He hit the keys really hard. He was, that big band type of player. Yeah. And then he would come up and we would talk. He'd drink his black coffee and his cigarette. And that was my first introduction to music. And then a few years later, my brother brought home Journey Escape. He was a few years older than me. And the first song is Don't Stop Believin', which is now this gigantic, well-known song. But the intro is the piano. And I remember making that connection like, hey, I remember knowing that instrument. That's piano. And that kind of got me curious to start exploring all the other bands like the Van Halens and the Iron Maidens and all that stuff. And it all came from that. And as far as the mention of GarageBand, was it GarageBand or what's the other, was it Rockstar or something like that? Or, forget what it was called. Rock Band. Yeah. So there was Guitar Hero. And then there was, now I was getting confused. I was kind of merging both of them. There was Guitar Hero and Rock Band, and two bands I've had on recently for, the New Music Spotlight. One was Joyous Wolf. They both mentioned, Greg and Robert both mentioned how Rock Band was the driving force for them, becoming interested in music. And then The Warning, they said, I think theirs was Guitar Hero, which they first got interested in. So it's interesting how with the generation that you're part of, that was a gateway to music. Was the peak, piquing your interest.
Yeah, it's interesting how different technology actually creates different influences and can inspire in different ways. That's, I never thought about that. That's really cool.
How about writing? I mean, one of the things that I noticed about your music is how deep and emotional the lyrics are. And that's got to come from somewhere, right? I mean, that, you're not singing, like Motley Crue or a Kiss song or something like that, where it's about, partying and drinking. I mean, these are very ways to connect with your audience, because a lot of people go through these things, and and it's great that you write lyrics to these songs. But what was the inspiration? Was there a song that you heard that connected with you in a way where you wanted to write lyrics and write music?
I mean, I think my favorite track on that EP that we did is Tiffany Skylight. And I think I can speak for both of us when I say like we pull inspiration from anything, and as long as it means something to us and we connect with it, we're probably going to write about it. And Tiffany's Skylight is one of the weirdest backstories to it, because we were just listening to a podcast, like a true crime podcast, and they were talking about this guy who had a family. They lived in a mansion. They were really wealthy. Well, it turns out the father had lost his job. They were going bankrupt. He didn't want to tell anybody. So rather than fess up to it and say, hey, like, we don't have any money, we're broke, we're going to have to move out of this nice mansion, he ended up murdering them all and put their bodies in some ballroom that they had in this mansion that they'd never used. And in that ballroom was a hand-painted Tiffany Skylight that was worth more than any of their debts. So we kind of took that story, it like really hit a nerve with us. And
yeah, we both looked at each other and we were like,
that's so messed up.
So do we write about it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think we tried to take it a step further, and we wrote this really twisted version of it where if you listen to it, you can listen to it like it's a love song. If you didn't know any better, you would think that it was a love song. And then once you know what it's about and you go back through and you listen to the lyrics and understand the story, you look at it through a whole new filter and you're like, what? That is not what I thought this song was about. And I don't know, like, I think that's kind of just one of the peak storytelling songs that we have on that album, where it's truly, as long as it connects to us and we find meaning in it and we find a cool story in it, or whether it's a true crime podcast that we listen to, or, you know, something more emotional or more personal, like, you know, like Legacy was for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think music is a really good avenue just as an outlet or for therapy. Of course, like, go to therapy. I love therapy, but like,
so do I.
But like being able to channel some of that rage or that anger or that hurt and be able to put, you know, some real impact behind it. I think that was really helpful for us. It's my favorite part of being able to be a musician and being able to express that and turn something that might have been pretty dark at first into something that's, you know, got more life and it's able to connect with other people. So
yeah,
that's what we love the most as songwriters. And I think that's what we try to bring with everything. So to hear that our lyrics are deep, we're like, yes, that's what we wanted.
I enjoy that a lot. I mean, I am obviously into rock music and hard rock and metal, but I have an appreciation for lyrics and how they connect with people. And when you think of your life, I mean, you know, as I look back and I look at the periods, you know, of life that I've had, being young, you know, growing into an adult, being a young adult, you know, having, you know, becoming a father, I always correlate those moments with what I was listening to. You know, that's why Pete Yorn is such an important artist for me, because that was when I was really trying to figure life out in my early 20s, like what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. And I just had him on all the time, you know, which was different from when I was, you know, in high school and in junior high, when I was listening to the Motley Crues and the Van Halens and all that stuff. And you probably should listen to Motley Crue and Van Halen when you're in 7th grade, you know, I mean, you know, but then as, you know, I got older, I mean, I became interested in artists like Butch Walker, and I had which is a fantastic artist, fantastic singer, songwriter, but others too as well in that type of genre. I still maintain that rock, obviously, and that love for rock music, but there's for me, when you connect with song and connect with lyrics, that song stays with you for forever. And the song evolves with you too, as well. I mean, everyone always talks about like a great song stands the test of time. And that's so true. But a great song also evolves with the person you're becoming as well. Yeah. It has different meanings through different times in your life. And I always enjoy that.
Me too.
Yeah, for sure.
The EP is Dear Icarus. Absolutely fantastic. It's available on all streaming sites or most streaming sites.
I think it's on everything.
I think it's on all.
Okay.
Then let us know.
Please.
As I dove into it, it really did feel like it took me somewhere else too, as well. And, you know, with the the just incredible harmonizing that you guys do, and mixed in with the arrangements. Really enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised because, like I said, I didn't know what to expect when listening to this, and I always like it when something surprises me with how great and how awesome it is. Getting back to your writing styles and connecting with a subject, you mentioned something like a podcast subject can inspire you to write. Obviously, there's the personal need to write a song, be therapeutic. There's also observations or what, someone may be going through. When you write something that is personal and it is therapeutic, is it difficult to reconnect with what you're writing about when you have to do that? Do you guys have a process that you go through?
I think any song that has been like really deeply emotionally connected for me has been a song where it just kind of like spills out of you. It's like one of those songs that you write in like 5 minutes. And at least for me, I can say it's really hard to come back to that song and be willing to change things or move things around, because it's any song that's
of the moment.
Yeah. It's like, so I don't know. It's just like so easy to write, which does not happen often in songwriting. Normally it's like a battle to try to finish a song. So any song that's been really deeply connected for me, it's not necessarily hard to go back to it or hard to, reconnect with it. It's hard to give up a little bit of creative control when you go into the studio and you're like, I know that this part isn't really working, but I don't want to let go of it. And it's just hard to do what's best for the song later on, because I'm so connected to the way that it was when I first wrote it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. When you do write something personal, and you're going through those emotions again and reliving an experience, either it's a joyful one or it's not a joyful one. When you write it, do you ever feel that your perspective changes about the experience?
Yeah, actually. I wrote a really petty song once called Runaway, where basically one of my high school friends, I found out she blocked me on Facebook, and I was like, how dare you? Whatever. I'm going to get the last laugh on this. And I wrote this really scathing, like, all you do is run away. Like you don't handle anything. You don't like, how dare you unfriend me?
A little salty
about it. But, now I look back and laugh because I'm like, we weren't that close. It wasn't that deep. It just was such an outpouring of like some of that hurt. And then I got to, immortalize it. And now I can move on because it was like a marker for where I was at that point in time.
Yeah, it's a way to process it. And then
and
come
now
to terms with it.
Yeah. And now I can sing it without, feeling that same emotion. And I think that's one of the great things about it is, especially when you go to record something, you have to do it so many times. You have to, perfect every last little thingy about it. And then you perform it, and it just kind of becomes rote after a while. And I think that's it's almost like exposure therapy. Like you learn how to deal with this being your reality, and you kind of integrate it a little bit. And I have plenty of stories where I was petty. And then years later, I was like, oh, I was the problem. And I'm sure there's a song in there too somewhere about that. But yeah.
Have you ever felt that the personal stuff, the writing that you do, the lyrics, is a lot easier to write, or is it more difficult, especially on something that might be sensitive versus an observation versus something that is inspired by, like you just mentioned, a podcast? I imagine something like that is a little difficult because you're trying to find the approach. You're trying to absorb what you heard or what you saw and write about. Whereas a personal, you lived it, you went through it, and there's different approaches to the writing. When you go through that, how is that process for the both of you?
Yeah, with Tiffany Skylight, it was kind of fun writing lyrics because it's like, how do we be witty about it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of tongue-in-cheek moments.
Yeah, a lot of tongue-in-cheek moments in that one. And that one was honestly, like, I wouldn't say easy necessarily to write the lyrics, but it was just like fun because you could riff on it. And kind of twist things around to make it not mean what it actually means.
Yeah.
When it comes to more personal stuff, it's definitely a lot harder for me to write lyrics just because I always feel like I want the personal lyrics to hit a lot harder. You know, like I want to say it in a really beautiful, eloquent, poetic way. And then I'll write something really corny. And I'm like, can't use that.
The corny check is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's hard finding a balance of being really heartfelt with what you're writing, especially when it's personal to you, and writing what you actually want people to take from it and just take away from it. It's a lot more difficult to find really meaningful, poetic ways to say things.
I think, like, I agree for sure. I think another struggle with it is like, you want to make sure that the lyric is enough for the moment. Like it captures what it is. Right. So I get really overwhelmed if I'm trying to write, something personal. If I feel like it's not living up to what I went through,
Yes,
I need it to be significant enough. I need it to be that authentic expression. But I think, the longer that I try to write music, the more I've tried to let go of that a little bit, because things kind of take shape as you go. And it's obviously I want to bring my best foot forward, but maybe the guitar part is going to capture more of what I wanted, as opposed to, the lyric in that one spot. And I don't have to worry so hard, or maybe like a drum fill right at that point, it's going to feel more intense than anything I could write, So I'm learning to try to pair all of those things together and not worry so much. And that's helped quite a bit. So
is it important for you to have the audience, when you do write something like that, connect with it and the meaning behind it like you did? Or once you put it out there, it becomes theirs, and however they want to interpret it is up to them?
I think it's definitely more that, I think no one
might have a dissension point.
Oh, we have a dissension point. Okay. At least for me, I don't think that any song that I write is going to necessarily have that same reaction with a fan who's listening to it. They're going to interpret it like however they want to interpret it. Obviously, I would love if they find that same meaning and can really connect with it on the same level. I just, I've kind of said, as long as someone is connecting with it in some way, and if they're listening to something and they have a really personal reaction to it and they really love it and they connect it with this, big monumental moment in their life, it might not necessarily be what I wrote it about, but if they're connecting with it on a deep level and that's how they're interpreting it, then, I don't care.
Far be it from it.
Yeah. What's your dissension point?
Well, now I regret that, because you said that really well, but
okay, so we're good.
Well, there's almost like this little selfish part of me that's like, no matter what you do, it's mine. It's always going to be my song. Like, it's all like you can interpret it how you want, but it means what I say it means. But I think that the process itself is transformative, and if it becomes ours, then that's a different.
I think part of releasing it too is inherently letting go of what you were writing about, so the songs that we've written that are really personal, that have that meaning, I've found that when we've released it, it's been like the final, okay, I'm letting go of it now.
Yeah.
When it's
that
sitting,
cathartic bit of it.
Yeah, when it's sitting on a hard drive on my computer and we're waiting on the fourth mix, or, that doesn't really.
That doesn't feel too great.
Yeah, no, but as soon as you put it out there in the world, it's this is the final let go point for me. So however other people want to interpret it and connect with it, I'm good, because I've already had that moment and it's out in the world now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
It's closure.
Yeah.
As far as the band, you guys are from Cleveland, and according to Huey Lewis, the heart of rock and roll is in Cleveland. What is the history? How did you guys form? When did this band begin?
Go for it.
I mean, we were friends in high school. So that was actually, I'm dating myself, but that was 11 years ago. Jesus, I'm so old. But we were friends in high school. We got a chance to do like almost like a little mini School of Rock moment, and then kind of lost touch. And you hit me up for, trying to do like a local show, and she was like, yeah, I want to get this band together. I have this bassist. I've got, we just need a guitarist. Like, this is going to be great. And I was like, no. And so she kind of had to remind me that was something that I loved doing, because I'd been out of band for a little bit. I was just going to college, just doing my own thing. So yeah, she kind of convinced me, and it was curtains. That was it. So yeah. So we started our first band, and then what was it, 2019? Pre-pandemic time is hard to conceptualize now.
It's just like a brick.
Sometime before COVID, we decided that we wanted to kind of revamp what we were doing, and really try to make it more intentional and focus in on who we wanted to be, and try to, like sharpen, I guess, like our idea of what kind of music we want to write and what genres we want to fit into. So we formed GoldThread, and that's when, all this new music kind of started forming, and it's been good, right?
When you're forming the band, and now the EP comes out summer of last year, as far as those beginnings to now, where has the band evolved the most?
I mean, it's just hard because the pandemic it literally hits in the first, 6 months of us doing behind the scenes work for GoldThread.
Yeah, I think that's it's a very interesting question that ties in with kind of how the pandemic has changed.
Yeah. How did it change me as a person?
Yeah.
It's literally the same answer. But yeah, we started doing all these things, and we felt like we had all this momentum, and we were, filming music videos, and then COVID hit, and we kind of had to redefine for ourselves, really personal levels, what we wanted and what we wanted to do with our life. And, if and when we get out of this, what is it going to look like? And I think that's a question that's still getting answered. So
yeah, I think a lot of bands and musicians are kind of still in that world every once in a while. Pandemic just really forced it.
Yeah.
Sure. As far as the pandemic goes, in terms of the tone of the music, in terms of, stylistically, did that have any impact on your music?
All of the songs that are on that EP were actually written before.
Yeah, written, recorded, everything.
Yeah,
done.
Right before the pandemic hit. So, I mean, the stuff that we've been writing since then has definitely, I don't know how to explain how we've really written since then. It's kind of gotten a little bit more, at least on my side, I'm like, oh, the music is slower and more sad because
more contemplative.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's hard not to have that happen, right? I mean, when everyone's experiencing this, and I've talked to a lot of bands and a lot of artists about what was it like making music during the pandemic versus non-pandemic time, and they, some of them just went into a bubble and just forgot about what was happening. And, that's what they wanted to do and how they wanted to create. And others were very affected by it. I think of a couple artists that told me they had to turn the TV off. They couldn't watch it anymore because it was affecting their art and their creativity. And how could it not? I mean, it was everywhere. And plus you think of, at some, you had a toxic election through all this, you had protests and everything. I mean, it was, and stuff continues to happen, in reality, in the current world, the way things are, that has to affect someone who is creating music, who's writing lyrics, who, is writing things that they feel and have emotion on. So it has to, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm also sorry. Our cat is just
being incredibly needy right now.
She's just walking around our feet, just yelling.
It's such a good topic.
The cat wants to get into the conversation too, obviously.
Yeah, she does.
There she is.
Hello, friend. She's walking around yelling until we let her up. Yeah, the pandemic has definitely just affected so many elements of songwriting and touring and being a musician in general. It's so crazy. I feel like everything just got flipped.
I just think the most important thing that happened, or that's the role of music, is everyone going, hey, I'm still struggling. Hey, I'm not okay right now. And I think music has always kind of functioned as that point where you can kind of let down some of those barriers a little bit. And I think the artists that are, like, all of us are going through this, I think that we're all coming out of it saying, I need music, I need something, and I need to, be able to share my art, and I need to be able to admit when things aren't going so well. And I think that's going to be hopefully the biggest thing that we all take away from it, is how to talk about when we're not okay. So
talk about or sing about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I just, when you touched on that subject and you think about, what people have gone through, especially musicians and artists and creative people. I've done a couple shows on the mental health aspect of musicians and artists. And there was a study that was done with Princeton University, and I believe the organization was MRSA and Music Cares, about addictions and depression, with musicians and artists. I forget the number that they talked about. And I also spoke with Rick Allen, the drummer of Def Leppard, and his wife, who are very involved in creating programs for people with mental health challenges and whatnot. And it's a very important topic. And I think it's a lot that people forget, because going through this experience, different people are feeling different things. There's some people that can just deal with it and be fine. And there's other people that need that social connection and that social payoff. And it's affected a lot of people. And what's really interesting is how artists now are starting to release material that was written and recorded during that time, and how much their tone has changed and the whole vibe of the music that they're releasing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've noticed that too, especially in lyrical content, the music that's been released certainly the last couple months, but, even the past year, the lyrical content has changed so much. And I feel like a lot of it is so much darker. I feel like everyone was like, I don't like this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Had a really hard time with it. And you can definitely see it coming through in music, like people who are writing while they were touring are now kind of sitting at home by themselves in a little studio and sending little demos to their bandmates. It's just not the same atmosphere that it used to be. So obviously you're going to get very different songs that come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think of the song that was released by Blackberry Smoke called We Will Rise Again, which was off their album that they released last year. And again, the total vibe of the song is a lot different than what they did before. And a lot of artists were like that too. And when you think back for both of you, and you look at the music that you released with the EP, and all the stuff has now happened since then, how do you both stay connected to that music with all the experience or the lack of experience, and plus the experience that everybody went through?
How do you stay connected? I think as long as it's, I can listen to stuff that I wrote like 10 years ago. I don't often, because it's not great. But if I listen to stuff that I wrote years ago, there's a part of me that I'm always going to be connected to it, because it just immediately transports me back to the time when I wrote it and what I was feeling at that point in time. And listening to the EP, it's, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of funny because it does bring me back to a time like right before the pandemic, like right before everything shut down. And it's, I don't know. It's interesting to connect with it on that level, because it's kind of this weird pre-apocalyptic kind of vibe for me.
Well, I think it's kind of, what we tried to do with Dear Icarus was make a cycle of death and rebirth, because that's where we felt as musicians, letting one project die and starting another one, right? And that's why we picked that myth of, kind of falling and getting back up. And I think that's a very human cycle. And this, unfortunately, like the past couple of years have been a very literal interpretation of needing to pick up from the ashes. But I think that's always going to be a thing, like that's always going to be a central part of what it means to be alive. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that'll kind of stand the test of time. And that's something that we can keep coming back to. So,
yeah,
it's got to be interesting for the both of you that, the Dear Icarus EP, I believe every release is kind of like a timestamp, right? Of what you were going through, what you were dealing with. And, this was recorded prior to the pandemic, released during the pandemic. Now you're writing material that's going to be recorded as you come out of it. But the material was during this time. And it'd be interesting when you reflect years later and you look at both of these, and you can know the differences and kind of remember what each of you were going through. And that has to be therapeutic in itself too, as well, to kind of have these moments that, we all dealt with, but you kind of have like this diary entry of this EP and then what you're going to be releasing, in the future.
Yeah. It's a living journal.
Yeah, for sure. Every song is like a new entry. 100%.
What's next for you guys this year in 2022?
I think we're finally starting to get to a point of, feeling confident with the world enough that we're going to start playing shows. Yeah, fingers crossed, don't jinx anything. But I think that's kind of our main focus for this year is like, let's get back out there. Let's play shows. Let's actually play this music live. Mm-hmm. And
we miss it.
Yeah.
I it's so weird because I'm usually such a homebody and I'm such an introvert, and
me too.
Performance is one of those things that it's like, oh, do I have to? But now I'm like, no,
I just like so nerve-wracking, I
miss it though. Like I truly miss like those butterflies. And I think it's hard to not have that. And it just makes me more eager for when it's going to happen. Yeah. So that's the game plan, is actually get out there, get some shows on the calendar, and hopefully get to the recording studio whenever we can. So
that has to be, one of the most difficult things too. Obviously there's the bands that can sit home and not worry about life because their bank account has been, built for years. You think of the big bands that are out there. But a lot of new bands, whether they're, just emerging or in the midst of emerging or, on another level, you think of some of the newer bands that are out there. They are all of the bands, whether what level they're at, all missed a full year of making money, selling merch, doing all that stuff. And people forget these are not the days of the 70s and 80s where you release one hit song and you're golden for the rest of your life. It's not like that anymore. And when I do go to the shows with new bands, and I always try to buy some merch just because, first of all, I like the merch, and also to support the bands because they don't have the big record deals like they did.
The best direct ways to support, for sure.
Yes. So, it has to be exciting to get back to that, but it also has to be, to know the opportunity that, once we start playing again, or once you start playing again, that you'll be able to continue to move this forward. Because that's been probably weighing on a lot of musicians' minds, is moving this thing forward. It's kind of like at a standstill.
Yeah. The lack of momentum, I think, has been one of the harder things. But
it's like totally restarting after a year and a half, 2 years.
It's inertia, right? Like it's hard to get going. But as far as like financial aspects of everything, like that is a good question. Like where did these poor musicians like have to pick up all these day jobs? But I think the way the industry's been moving, it's almost like you have to love it. Otherwise, you're just going to get frustrated. Like, I don't think anybody's in here for a quick turnaround for a paycheck or, one show getting you your month's rent. Like, that's never been on my radar.
I know plenty of people that are insanely talented songwriters and musicians and have just been like, I don't want to deal with the industry, Yeah. I'm like, I don't blame you.
But
so
no, I think you're totally right. It's the momentum of being able to connect with people and get your music out there that everybody's been, missing and eager to hop back on.
I agree. The other thing too that is lost on a lot of people, but when you think of the new emerging, musicians and rock bands, they're playing because they really love to play.
Yeah.
You both are doing this because you really love doing it. There always was back in the day. I sound like an old crab right now, but back in the day, you had visions of the mansions and all that stuff, and that propelled a lot of people to get into and be one of the lucky ones. Whereas now the bands, I'm sure there's always a sense of comfort, which is always the goal in any journey. But, you're making music that you love and you're making music that you're passionate about, and playing in front of people too. And doing that is the admirable thing about this generation of music that is different than years before. I think there's a genuine essence to it. And I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I think it produces a lot of authenticity for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kaylene, Lauren, this has been a great conversation. Thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate it. I love the EP. The EP is absolutely tremendous. So for anyone listening, I know there's a lot of rock dudes and dudettes out there who, need to step out of their comfort zone, but this album is really majestic. It really is fantastic. Some of the highlights for me were Legacy, Cry Wolf, and We Can Almost See the Sun. Love those songs. If you know Band of Horses, like I mentioned in the beginning, there's a complete vibe of that. And I think Band of Horses, I forget who they just got announced who they're opening with. I think it's the 2-piece from Ohio. I'm drawing a blank.
Black Keys, I think.
Black Keys.
Yes. I was going to say, I know
Black
what
Keys.
you're talking about. I can see it in my head.
Those are our actors.
So yeah, but get the EP. Keep our fingers crossed that we'll see both Lauren and Kaylene touring later this year with their fantastic band. The band is GoldThread. The EP is Dear Icarus. The album or the EP was released independently on July 21st. It's available on all streaming services. In fact, YouTube. Really great stuff. Thank you both for doing this.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
How did you do that at the same time? That's disgusting.
Thank you, though. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. The band is GoldThread. The EP is Dear Icarus. The guests are Kaylene and Lauren. Thank you very much for tuning in. Stay strong, stay safe, stay healthy, take care of each other, and we will talk again soon. Thank you.
Can you let your guard down for me? I'm not sure I'm believing. Oh, I see you in the mask you try to pass as true. I can't keep up, I can't push through. This is what you do. Save your breath. And your lights wings are fading. Fly you close to the sun, you burn away. Cry wolf, it breaks my heart, but I'm not coming after you. When are you all gone around you? Oh, I see you in your heart, you say your aim is true. Lay your armor down before it overtakes.
300 Favorite Albums with James Campion.
I don't think there's an album I know better front to back I learned how to play guitar to a lot of these songs.
If I could pick one record to hand someone and say, this is what it feels like to be a woman, it would be this record.
You know, the engineer that was recording the album for us was a novice engineer. He was really the janitor.
The first half of these sessions for the album were totally improvisatory in the sense that they went into the studio and just dealt with whatever happened.
There was space that was left for these listeners to kind of discover it for themselves. That they would say, yeah, my parents listened to it, but I had to build my own relationship to it.
Happiness, good living, peace, love, rock and roll. I just feel like this album is such a wonderful translation of that concept.
People understood they were in a world historical moment, and it felt like it was going to last forever. In fact, the infinite spaces that they explored in The Giant Now is part of what made that explosion so huge.